everyone. Um, this is your latest coach update, and it's going to take a little bit of a different format than before. I'm going to be providing you with a website that's going to provide you with materials and techniques for assessment in remote learning and blended learning. And let me get this out of the way right away. This is a simulation. I'm going to also be providing you with a model for what a student website could look like if you wanted to create a kind of blended learning kind of like platform for teaching a unit and how you can modulate that unit. I'll talk about that in a second. But of course, let's get it out of the way. As I show you this, this is a simulation. You are more than welcome to do any of the exercises that are put on the pages, but you are not required to do any of them. That's not what I'm asking you to do. You're all very busy people, especially right now in our current situation. So if you have time and you want to go through these things, feel free. If not, and that's more likely the case, just look at this as a model, and if you need to go directly to the resources page, do what you've got to do, okay? So let's take a look at the page. You're going to get the URL, and it should take you directly to this page, Democracy and Assessment. And let's mainly talk about this page in terms of blended learning platform design, and we'll get a few things out of the way, and we'll kind of we'll discuss them a little bit. There are three major things when you're thinking about design for a blended learning platform or a unit site just like this. Those three things are modulation, wayfinding, and double layering, which I've spoken to you about before. And they're very kind of like simple, kind of to bring examples in. Modulation, it's very obvious. You can see that this is the unit steering page, Democracy and Assessment. And then Module 1 will be on Mindsets for Modern Assessment. Module 2 will be on Modes for Modern Assessment. And then Means. Means is resources, but I want it to be alliterative. Give me that. So it's just modulation means it's broken down into... that's actually kind of cool. You might see that the screen is getting a little bit orange. It's because they're in the wrong time zone, but that's Flux. That's a really good kind of app to use and suggest to your students, so that the blue light doesn't begin to bother you. But there we go. Make it more blue again. Back on track. So 4 modules, 1 steering page really, 3 modules. And that breaks it down and kind of like students can go at their own pace or they can go at different paces. It'll be up to you when you teach this way. You can put them in order, or you can tell students to just run off and do it as they want. But it will be all brought together through a major activity. I'll talk to you about that. Okay, so this is modulation, and it's wayfinding, because studies have shown going from modulation to wayfinding, which is another one of the requirements or one of the nice things to add into your site. Students get frustrated by having to figure out URLs or kind of like where the other pages or what order they're in. So if you provide them frequent reminders of where they have to go and intelligent paths to follow, wayfinding, they will, they will not get frustrated. You don't want to lay it totally out for them. You don't want to hand feed them, but you want to make it sure that things are accessible and they're not constantly looking things up in Google to find a different page in your own website. So you can see that I've repeated those buttons down here, and on every page in this unit website, there will be at the top and at the bottom, there will be places to get to the other pages. Not only is the presence of those things, but the repetition of them in the same place, that is very useful for students. They like that because they know exactly where to go to get to other places. Okay, so wayfinding and modulation. Let's take our path down to double layering. Okay, so just as you would, the video, it's nice to start every unit with a video, and you have a choice. You could do a big idea video, or you can do a kind of how-to video and what this unit is about. And I'm sitting here telling you what the unit is about and how to use the website. So that's kind of like a great option, especially with beginning students or with an introductory website like this. But on the first page, you should definitely try to get into the big ideas. Just like when you were starting any unit, you have the big ideas, the provocative questions, things like that. Here we go. So basically, I'm going to be providing you with big ideas. I'm going to suggest that a kind of like discussion of Dewey and Paulo Freire would be a good way to think about assessment. So just like I would with students, I would give an essential question. How can we use Freire's concept of praxis to inform our assessment practice in 2020? A little quote from Freire, a little bit of a reading, putting it into context. COVID-19 lockdown as an opportunity for praxis. Then moving on to Dewey, same kind of pattern, question, quote, a little bit about Dewey and the way that he thinks that schools create individual ethics. And then we're out. We're done. That's our little provocation. And on the first page, you also get, and this is where double layering comes in, right? Modulation, wayfinding, double layering. Please select one of the optional exercises below as a mini project to be submitted by unit's end. So this bottom kind of section provides a little bit of a summary of things. What are the big questions? What is one of the big thinkers on grading? Think about assessment and grading in these situations. And then the optional exercises. Giving students choice, giving them an opportunity to go through these, maybe adjust them a little bit. They choose one, and then they have until the end of the unit to complete it. So it serves both as that double layering element where you have a kind of overarching project that provides a light at the end of the tunnel. When you're doing day-to-day stuff, it can get a little bit monotonous or whatever, but this is the glue and the overall framework that brings it all together. And they know that this is also, the big project is also the exit ticket. The assignment, the unit isn't done until the project is done. So now we're not going to get into different theories today about should students be able to self-pace or things like that. That'll be a discussion for another day. This is just my introduction to the site. Okay, so we have gone over that. Our three major things, which are modulation, wayfinding, and double layering. This provides the double layer, and also I talked to you a little bit about how we would start with big ideas, and now we're going to see that it gets narrower throughout the unit. So when we go to module 1, which we could do, you can do this in any order, and but students might want to go in order, getting to narrower and narrower kind of ideas and aspects. Mindsets takes us to another discussion, but this is a more practical discussion. It's not overarching theory from big thinkers. This is Guskey, Leanne Jung, Ken O'Connor, and Rick Wormelli having a talk. They did a talk about a week and a half ago about the new normal, assessment and distance learning. So this provides you some great thinkers and some practical ideas, a practical discussion on how to do it. It was a great podcast, so I really recommend it to you. And you can see that, I've framed it with questions, some other ways of thinking about things. And let me talk about this also in terms of design. It's good to constantly break up your pages with different kinds of media and different kinds of activities. So on one page, I would start with video first. On this page, I start with some questions to provoke your thinking before you watch the video, kind of graphic to summarize some of the ideas in the video, and then moving on, and then a different kind of, provocation. So module 1, mindset, source B, questions, quote from Quintilianus. You may or may not know him, but I think he's still got some things to say that are useful for us. And then some big questions. Boom. And going, it's generally, if you notice, the format is both the same and a little bit different. That's what students are going to look for. They want to see consistency, but they also don't want to see monotony, right? They want to kind of see it broken up, but to have reliable things like always having those wayfinding buttons on the bottom and the top of each page. Okay. Then for you guys, and where I think that for most of you, we're going to be moving closer to things that you find useful. Modes of modern assessment. These are actually going to be, now it's going to ask you to, it's going to provide you with some questions, and it's going to provide you with some things to think about and activities. But again, all of those activities are optional. They're just here to show you what it might look like for students. And if you want to do them again, let's do them. So types of formative to summative assessment. What is the difference between formative and summative assessment? And again, the purpose of this video is not to fully discuss all of these activities. And this is an inquiry learning model also. So as you go through this, you do what you want. You can think about these things as you wish, but I think that these questions will, get your brain warmed up for the various useful elements here. So, not that the questions aren't useful. Suggestions for assessments, creative assessments, when you're in an online environment. And you can go through those suggestions. And then not every, don't provide a video for every single suggestion. You can do that individual research on your own. Students should also be prompted to do that kind of individual research on your own. It's not your job to provide them with an example for everything, but some examples. So Edpuzzle and Loom, suggestions that that are up here to use. Go ahead and check them out. Break it up with a bit of a quote. There we go. Break it up with a bit of a quote, and then a reference to ACSD, another resource on grading and assessment. And then again, another one. And now this is, so the top page was suggestions for types of assessment. And then right here are kind of suggestions for best practice. And one of the ones that I've been promoting, and I think most of you know that I like, is the gradual release of responsibility. So I've provided you with 4 different videos on the gradual release of responsibility that are they have captions here so that you know exactly what you're getting. And again, that repeat of those wayfinding buttons. All right, and then moving along quickly because I'm talking too much. Module 3 are the means. And this is probably what most of you are going to be looking for in the short term because you're busy people. I've taken, I've got some things together. I've explained the rationale behind them, but curations. Everybody's sharing online these days, so it's no longer a situation where we're picking and choosing one resource or 2 resources. We're picking and choosing the curations of the best curations, right? So like the MYP coordinators in China and Beijing have come together with Stephen Taylor at WAB, and he's got a really good kind of collection on assessment, and that's right there, alternative assessment. And then other things, again, GOA, the New York Times, Kim Cafino, they've all got like collections of resources by now. I'm going to be adding one. I saw a good one this morning from UNESCO, so I'll be adding that. And then here are some more ideas about practices and further reading on best practices when you're giving assessments online. Websites for the panel in that earlier video. And another addition, Eric Hudson, who's the director of learning. Look at that typo. I'll fix that for you guys. At GOA, Global Online Academy. And he goes over what he considers a summative assessment strategy in this video. And then finally, some other examples like technology that can be used for giving assessments. And then over here at the final thing, these are some examples of plagiarism checkers and remote assessment tools. And you got to be careful here because not all of them, for example, exam.net, this looked promising. A few people were looking at this, but then we found out that it requires, and I have to check that typo too, a VPN and a workaround. So if you are interested in that, because it does look pretty slick, let me know. I think the best one, the most promising one right now is Gradescope, and I put the video here for Gradescope. You can see that it is an online video, and it is an online platform. And the thing that I like about Gradescope is that it allows you to grade and receive remote work that is both kind of like typed into the exam. You can make an exam just like you would, if you were using SurveyMonkey or Google Forms. But also it allows you to distribute questions or things like that require a handwritten response to be put on paper. And then the students can use their phones to take a screenshot, a kind of like a photo of that, upload it into the platform, and it sends it to you. And then you have all this grading capability, comment capability built into that. So these are not things that are being required right now. But if some of you are looking for a more robust way to control the environment of assessments that you're giving, then this is something that you might want to take a look at. And anybody can take a look at any of these things. And if you really like something, just let me or Daniel know, and we'll take an even closer look at them. So again, and that's the final page. And that's the end of our introduction. So I hope that you understand how this can potentially help you right now with different resources and different ways of thinking about assessment, but also for anyone who's thinking about going on with the blended learning platforms or environments, which would be something to consider because we know what it's going to be like the first couple of weeks that we get back into the school. I hope this provides you with a little bit of an idea or some ideas on how you can create your own platforms for your own students. Okay? I'll see you guys all later. And why did I say and after that? I'm not really good at speaking online.